I'm back with some brand new Christmas DIYs so that we can get a head start on the season so that when the time arrives, we can just sit back and relax and enjoy. Let's get started with these budget-friendly DIYs. You know, I don't care where I get the stuff from. As long as I got it on a budget, it doesn't matter to me. Let's get into it. I'm going to start off with a picture frame that I just had in my home that I wasn't using for anything. I have had good success getting picture frames at thrift stores as well, and Dollar Tree, wherever. But I'm just using one I had on hand. We're going to take everything out of it, and I'm just using this cardstock. It's just a thicker paper. You could use anything you wanted, but I'm just going to use it, and I'm flipping it over because I just really need the white background. I don't need any pattern, and I'm just going to use the glass to trace that out and cut it up. I like to use my paper cutter when my paper will fit in there because I'm not good at cutting straight lines. I don't know, I like to craft, but cutting a straight line seems to be a challenge. Always helpful to save everything, including all the bits and pieces of scraps. This is a bunch of scrap ends of garland ties, which I think these ones were from the Dollar Tree, but I know Hobby Lobby sells them. Probably Michael's does too. I don't know, I don't get in there very often, but I have just saved all of the bits. So I am just kind of sorting through them to get the right lengths because, as you can maybe see here, I'm going to build a Christmas tree. Now I wanted to trim mine up, which is a little bit of a messy job, but it's not hard. And you can decide if you want to do that or not. I just thought it was going to look nicer and lay nicer if I did this. So I just trimmed it down each and every one of these to what looked good to me, which obviously, you know, what looks good is in the eye of the beholder. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Leanne, and I enjoy sharing budget-friendly DIYs. And for me, that typically means Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Hobby Lobby clearance, some thrifted finds, but whatever I can find, I will use. Now, I'm showing this to you briefly. I started gluing this, I thought at the right spot, but I really glued it too low. I'm just using some hot glue. But I'm going to peel them off, trim off the paper, and I did cut myself a fresh piece of paper because the torn paper wasn't a good look, but the little bits of paper on the back of the garland ties, not noticeable at all, and then reassessed where I needed to lay these. And I'm just using a little bit of hot glue, and I did put on some finger protectors. Those are very handy, and I got them from the Dollar Tree, and that just helps make sure you don't get burned, although, you know, sometimes I use the finger that the finger protector is not on. And we're just going to glue these. I'm not pushing them up against each other too much. I'm giving a little bit of space, but you could do this however you wanted. You could also use pipe cleaners. You could use ribbon or chenille stems, I guess, is what a lot of times a craft department calls pipe cleaners. But I think of pipe cleaners because that's what they were called when I was a kid. I don't know, maybe they were called chenille stems and I just didn't know them as that. I don't know. Point is, you can use something besides the garland ties if you don't have them. If you are a budget crafter, you probably save everything. So you probably have lots of scraps. I apologize for my voice. I kind of started losing my voice yesterday. Don't know why. It seems like it's kind of coming back, but I feel like I sound a bit raspy. So also in my stash are these little wooden sticks, and I was just trying to find the skinniest one because I'm cutting this with wire cutters, not really what you're supposed to cut them with, or what you're supposed to use wire cutters for, I suppose. But I'm just kind of crimping on it and turning the stick until it broke off. It really actually wasn't that hard to do. And then we're going to glue that down for the trunk on our star. I believe these sticks came from the Dollar Tree. I've had them forever, but if you have a backyard with tree branches, you could also get one from there. A common theme in my videos is to use what you've got, but I also like to share some ideas so that you can just kind of think outside the box, so that you can just, you know, find something easily to use. Now, for an embellishment, I wanted to make a bow using ribbon. So I'm cutting up this wired ribbon, cutting off the wire, cutting a small piece. This was one that like really was fraying and falling apart on me. Not all ribbons will do that. So I couldn't really tie it. It was like literally just falling apart the more I touched it. So I kind of did a crisscross, and I didn't even wrap anything around it. I just twisted it on itself and hot glued it to the top of the tree, figuring once it was hot glued, it would hold it down. And it worked just fine. So again, use what you've got. I had other things I could have used, but I liked that pattern. I did save the mat for that frame, just put it behind the image or the picture I made because, you know, you never know if I want to use that in the future. You're not going to reuse the glass for this because it sticks out, but I love how this one came out. Let me know what you think of this sweet little rustic piece. I love it. Kind of looks like more natural elements. I didn't even paint the frame because I liked the frame, but you can of course paint the frame if you're using one that you don't really like. So in the same vein of just use what you've got, I'm not sure what this was. It's thicker than cardstock. It's not cardboard, but I had it laying around and I'm gonna cut out a triangle, which surprisingly my scissors worked okay on this, but you can use anything, a piece of cardboard, even a piece of cardstock I think would work. You could also use a wood triangle if you want. I noticed, I don't know what happened, but when I cut that out, I was like, that is not an even looking triangle. So it doesn't have to be perfect though, because we are going to wrap this. I'm going to use some jute and I'm going to start to cover the top peak here. I'm going to just hot glue a piece and gently wrap it over, and then I'll start wrapping it horizontally. And I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue, and once I get it started, it goes a lot quicker. Now I'm using a thicker jute here. I almost use a ribbon and some yarn, which I do think would work, but when you get to the bottom of we're making a tree here, you do want to be able to make it a little bit thicker so that we can attach it to the trunk we're going to use. So just keep that in mind. This was a thicker jute, so it kind of worked easier. And I just kind of, once I got going, I kind of put a bit of hot glue and wrapped it around a few times, and be careful pressing it in. But I did need to press it in because just wrapping it, it wasn't like coming into firm contact. So I just wrapped a few times, press it down, repeat until we get to the bottom. So the top and the bottom, you kind of have to be a little bit more careful, but it's, you know, it's pretty easy and goes quick. I was having trouble with my hot glue gun though. I had to like pull the trigger a bunch of times. I don't know what's up with that. And I was on a roll crafting, so I didn't stop to figure out what was going on with it. So try to keep that wrapped pretty tightly if you can. You could also go in like a haphazard pattern, crisscross type of thing as well. And I do think that that would give a really nice look. But you can see, because we are wrapping it, the cardboard does not have to be perfect as far as the shape that is cut out. And then I'm just going to do a bead all the way of hot glue all the way across the bottom. And then I kind of folded it back like on the bottom part of the cardboard. And this worked great to just lay it over it and stand it up on it. And then I went back again because, like I said, I wanted the bottom here to have a little bit of substance so that I could attach this to something else. Now, if you were using cardboard, you could always cut out several triangles and glue them together, and then you would have a thicker triangle. That would work well as well. That would work well also. I had this little wood round that we're going to use in a second, but then I decided to burn off some fuzzies on my twine here. Just be careful. Obviously, all of this could be flammable, but it really doesn't like catch on fire. It just burns off the strays. And then before I attach it to the trunk, I decided to embellish it. And I'm going to pull apart these little red and white berries maybe from a pick that I think was from Hobby Lobby. I don't know. I've had them for years, but I'm pretty sure they have these ones every year. But as you can see, you could go and buy a pick and you're only going to use a fraction of it for a project if you're taking it apart. So unless you're just decorating with the entire pick, it really can go a long ways. So I just trimmed it down. There is still a little bit of that wire sticking out, hot glued it, and then just kind of poked that wire down into the jute and just decorated it this way. And then here we are attaching it to a little wooden disc, which this one did come from Hobby Lobby. I think it was in a pack for $4.99, and I do know that Hobby Lobby's Christmas stuff is at least 50% off right now. It's been a little bit since I've been in, but it was 50% off last time I went in. If you need to put extra hot glue here and you can't hide the hot glue at the bottom, feel free to add some like Spanish moss to cover it up, but I was able to clean it up really easily. I use these little tools from the Dollar Tree, not for their intended purpose, but they work great for me. And then I pulled out this gold glitter star, which I believe maybe came from Dollar Tree a long time ago, but Hobby Lobby also has embellishments. But then the shiny gold and the shiny red and white berries were a little too vibrant for this rustic jute tree. So I am taking some antique wax on a stencil brush, and I am just going to dab this all over and mute down the gold star. You can still see a little bit of the glitter through it, but it's tame, more tame. And then I will also go over the berries as well, because they were a little bit shiny and glossy. If you go over it too much, the berries too much, you almost end up picking the wax back off. So just dab it on. I did go around all of the sides and then just left it alone to dry it. And that just kind of toned everything down and made the whole thing look a little bit more cohesive, a little bit more, all rustic, since that was the look that I was going for. But there are so many different variations of this that you could do. Let me know down below what you guys think of this one. I really do love it and look forward to decorating with it. As you can see kind of in the background, I still have my fall stuff out. I'm not decorating for Christmas. I'm just getting ready to decorate for Christmas for when the time comes. My mom recently gave me a bunch of her craft stash, and in there was this sign, which I do recognize from the Dollar Tree. I love finding pieces like this that just have these little tabs like a picture frame, and you can pop it out. It makes it even easier to make it over, but if you don't have one that the back comes out, you can work around it. I am going to peel off the paper here. You don't have to do that, but if it's easily coming up, I think it's better to at least take off what you can before you attach something else. If you're going to paint it, then obviously you need to take all of it off. But we're going to add some scrapbook paper on here. I did use my heat gun to try to loosen up the adhesive a little bit. I wasn't going for a clean cut here. I didn't need to. My paper is thick enough to cover it. But if it's already peeling off a little bit, you don't want to glue something onto something that is peeling off. I know Dollar Tree's prices have gone up, but you may already have some Dollar Tree stuff in your craft stash if you're like a lot of crafters. But also some things, even at their new price, are still a good deal. But also look at thrift stores, and Dollar General clearance is amazing. So we're gonna just take a glue stick, and I'm gonna use some scrapbook paper. I put my little back here on like top of a jar so that I can get all of the edges without getting, glue all over my mat. Although that is what the mat is there for. And we're just gonna use the scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. I think it was 59 cents a sheet, but I got it when it was on sale. And I'm using it for 2 projects today, and I will have some left over as well. So, not a whole lot of money going into this project. I did use my brayer to roll out that paper to get a good adherence, and I got it glued down. And then I'm using an emery board, but a sanding block works better. I think I need to just toss this emery board. It's lost its oomph. But I'm sanding that away, and that works really well. If you want, you could also just cut it off or trace it beforehand, but I find I don't get the exact size if ever. I did realize that I put this on the wrong way to hang this piece, but it's also a great shelf sitter, so pay attention to that. Or you could always just hot glue like some twine on the back to make a little hanger. We're gonna pop that back in the frame. Again, these ones that come out easily just make it so nice to do a little makeover. I had this little wreath in my stash that I had pulled off a previous project. I don't know where or when, but if you don't have that, you can easily make a wreath from one of those garland ties, add a bow, a couple random berries like we did earlier on the tree. But I already had this one because I save everything. And I'm just doing a little bit of hot glue at the top and the bottom. I feel like if you just do the top, then it just kind of bows out a little bit. So I am just going to attach that to the center, and that is it. This music, sheet music, you can't really tell what the words are, so it isn't necessarily like a Christmas music, but it doesn't matter. And I love decorating with music, sheet music. I've done quite a few things like that, and I really like it. So let me know what you guys think of this one. Really simple. Didn't even have to paint the frame on this one, although you could if you needed to. This is a piece that I picked up at Dollar General. It was $1, and I picked up many of these on different occasions this year for buy one, get one free. So 50 cents each, and I've bought a bunch of them. So check your Dollar General. Usually the change of seasons, I almost said seasonings, change of seasons is a great time. I think this was just like their spring stuff, or maybe it was their summer stuff. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to peel off this paper, and then I really wanted this one to be fully clean for what we're doing with this, at least on part of it. And so I'm just spritzing it and letting a wet paper towel sit on it. And sometimes you have to repeat that a couple times to get all of the layers of the paper off, but it works great. And then I realized here I was using my painter's tape to tape off the wrong way, but I fixed it. So I'm going to show this really quickly because I actually really messed this up. I had a vision in my mind, but I didn't think it through. So I'm painting this with ink paint, the color ink by Waverly chalk paint on the top and the bottom. And then I am going to use some of that music paper and cut off to do in the center. Now I did it this way because I didn't have a piece that was gonna be long enough to cover the whole thing. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this border. And so I'm trimming it to fit. But then I'm gonna glue on my paper. Again, just using a glue stick. You can also use Mod Podge or something else if you like. And then I had this idea because I've had this music ribbon in my stash since last year. My friend gave some of this to me, and I was like, oh, this would look cute at the top and the bottom. But then I didn't even think about it. I was like, if I paint the bottom black, you can't even see the music notes. So I did this, and then I was like, bad idea. But then I was like, what do? I don't want to ruin my whole project. So I peeled it off before the glue dried, and I was like, I don't know, do I sand it down? At first I was just like wiping with a baby wipe to wipe off the glue. And then I was like, oh, the paint's coming off into the baby wipe. And so even though it was dried, I was like, I'm going to just keep wiping this. And then I realized I could clean it all off that way. It did leave a little black on the edge where the paper was, which I kind of liked. It just kind of like made it look a little bit old. And it was totally fine because we're going to put the ribbon back. So I cleaned that up. I thought about painting it again. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave that natural. It kind of looks like a wood, even though it's not. It just kind of gives that look. I had to use quite a few baby wipes because it would just like rub the paint back on. So I had to keep changing it, but it's all right. Back to gluing this ribbon on. And this was a great way to get this ribbon on because it had all of those cutouts. I do not know where this ribbon is from because like I said, a friend sent it to me, but it was in my stash, so I'm using it. But check Hobby Lobby, check Walmart. I know there's lots of really cute ribbons there. It's not something I look at a whole lot, but I know that there's neat stuff there. So we're just gonna gently pat that into our glue stick glue, which will dry clear. You can't see it at all, but once again, you could use Mod Podge if you wanted. And I just thought that was a really cute way to use that ribbon that's been in my stash forever and to just kind of highlight the music notes. If you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me out so much, and leave me a comment down below. I love to interact with you, and it also is just a really great way for you guys to support my channel. I so appreciate it. Now, another bag of miscellaneous items. Whether it's from crafting or from when I'm decorating and I pull out my home decor for Christmas or really any time of year, and like things have fallen apart and you've got things falling on the bottom of your decor bins, I save them all. So I pulled out stuff to make a little swag, and then these are some red bows from Hobby Lobby in their My Little Christmas section, which is like for like mini trees and ornaments and stuff. And I love looking there for embellishments for DIYs. And so I'm going to just figure out how to attach all of this. I kind of wanted it to look like one of those hanging swags at the end. I was like, I guess it kind of looks like a Christmas tree, but not really with I don't know. I am just gonna hot glue this all together using a little bit of hot glue at the top. Again, my hot glue gun was giving me a struggle this day. I don't know why. And just layering the pieces. I like to use different types of greenery, different types of floral. I feel like when you mix and match it, it just looks a little bit nicer. And then I hot glued the bow on too. There is a twist tie there, but I didn't want to rely on that. I did want to glue that, and then we're gonna glue the whole piece down. And I glued at the top, and then I just kind of added little bits of glue underneath any parts that seemed like they needed extra security, or they were sticking out too much, or just kind of got out of hand a little bit. And just kind of kept going until I liked the look. But then I felt like the red was a little, I did want to add one more berry, so I popped that off with something else and added that on. But then I felt like the bow was not quite the right look for this. So I just took some antique wax that was still on my stencil brush. I hadn't gone and cleaned it yet. And I just kind of dabbed that onto this bow all over. It wasn't obvious. It was a very subtle change. I didn't mind if even a little bit of it waxed out on the paper. I wanted it to just look a little bit more rustic, and that was a great way to kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say dull it down, but kind of dull it down and made everything kind of go together a little bit better, in my opinion. I love how this piece came out. Sometimes a project takes a couple twists and turns along the way. You think you're going to do one thing and then you change your mind or you find something better. But in the end, I love how this came out. You can kind of see there a little bit of the toned down red on the ribbon, but or on the bow rather. Anyways, I love this one. I hope you do too. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. If you are new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button before you leave so that you don't miss out on my future videos. If you think you maybe have missed a video of mine, I do post every week, so if you haven't seen anything in a while, go ahead and check my channel. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It's an easy way to help me out. And also, leave me a comment down below if you're not sure what to say. Even just leaving an emoji is helpful, and it lets me know that you're here, which I just love to know that. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.